VeChain claims to be a game changer in the blockchain industry. Focusing on B2B selling, it boasts partnerships including the likes of Louis Vuitton, BMW, PwC, amongst a slate of other large enterprise customers. Having recently announced a partnership with Salesforce, I got interested and wondered, what's VeChain all about and how does it fit in to the wider industry today? So in the last video, we took a look at the commercial offering via its website. That was my first look at VeChain in depth. And now we're going to have a run through of the technical white paper. So this is going to be a little more technical, but I will try to focus on kind of high level concepts and kind of a more business analysis than maybe a developer's viewpoint, because I'm not a developer. I don't claim to know anything about that. If that sounds good, stick around, give us a like, give us a subscribe, and there is one more video in this series which will be putting what we've learned in both these videos together in a full business model analysis. So yeah, if you want to be the first to get that, hit the bell and YouTube will notify you when that comes out. So without further ado, let's take a look at VeChain's white paper 2.0. Hashtag creating valuable TXs, which is transactions. I started this process earlier, but I thought it would be good to share my analysis of it as I went through, kind of in a raw format, so you guys know what I'm thinking when I'm reading these things. White paper analysis is quite heavy, so I will leave time codes in the description if you want to just jump to the bits you are interested in. I'm not going to go through all of it. I'm going to cut out the bits that are kind of more technical and stuff, so hopefully keep it pretty high level. So let's get started. VeChain believes that blockchain technology is one of the foundations for the next generation of IT, alongside emerging technologies such as AR, VR, AI, IoT, 5G, and more. With the technology's immutable and tamper-proof characteristics, blockchain as an infrastructural technology is uniquely positioned to enable unprecedented value and data transfer among a wide set of users in a trustless manner, boosting the efficiency and authenticity of information transfer itself. Straight away from that first paragraph, we got a kind of taster of what's to come. It's more about information verification rather than maybe the transfer of wealth or payments in the case of something like Interledger. So this is going to be, already it's given me hints that it's more going to be about the kind of use cases that we discussed before, which was like logistics, business processes, that sort of thing. Yeah, so the vision of lowering the barrier and enabling established businesses with blockchain technology to create value and solve real-world economic problems has been clear to us from the very beginning. To achieve and fully harness this, we will enable mass public that will enable mass public adoption. We have identified the three major phases of blockchain evolvement: technical consensus, business consensus, and governance consensus. These will be the foundations and strategy to enable VeChainThor blockchain to be adopted as the world's premier choice of blockchain. Yeah, we're going to cover technical consensus, business consensus, and governance consensus just in this early thing. It's quite light, it's just the introduction, so that should be cool. So in terms of technical consensus, now I'm not going to read this all verbatim because it is too painful. So technical consensus is all about developers putting together the infrastructure, building stuff that leverage features and functionality of blockchains, such as ICOs, DAOs, and betting applications, because it's so tightly linked with money, along with infrastructure such as explorers, wallets, and exchanges. In this phase of the evolution of blockchain, very few applications are built for traditional businesses, and they don't improve business use cases or anything like that. It's very open, consumer-facing, because at the moment, that's kind of the stage we're in. Primarily motivated by technology enthusiasts, business applications are mostly in proof of concept stages by enterprises that are kind of ahead of their time. So yeah, I think it's safe to say we are kind of in this stage, slowly moving into business consensus because we're seeing more and more businesses pick it up. So let's move on to business consensus. Now let's move on to business consensus. So enterprises and businesses who invest early in blockchain R&D in the technical consensus phase would now gain a lead when it comes to implementing blockchain. Now in this phase, business owners and enterprises become the major driving force behind blockchain technology development and adoption. And it's all based, and I highlighted that in a different color, on business needs and demand. So it's very use case driven as opposed to, oh, this is cool, let's try it, as is the case with some of the developments at the moment. This phase is all about understanding business needs, blockchain technology adoption and integration, user-friendly interfaces, agile system structures, and business developer community. So yeah, this phase is all about getting this great technology that is blockchain into businesses. And like I say, I don't think we're quite there yet, but this is the place that VeChain plays in a big way. At the late stage, so that was the initial stage, at the late stage of business consensus, the increased attention and adoption of blockchain technology in major enterprises and businesses would compel authorities and regulatory bodies to seriously look into the blockchain space. So yeah, this kind of brings us on to the governance consensus, which we're not quite there yet, because we're seeing that different governments and stuff around the world, they don't really have an idea what they're doing. Some people have taken better steps than others. Turkey banned it outright the other day. India said it was going to ban it and then went back on it. We're getting this whole thing, and governance consensus is the stage after that, when everyone agrees on a unanimous thing, like we've got to with the internet. It's still under review, but that's it for the business phase. So they just say like VeChain is currently at a critical stage of the business consensus, with the VeChainThor being adopted by major enterprises, which is good. In consensus phase, like I said before, the race for blockchain adoption in this stage is about merging regulatory requirements with the advanced features of blockchain. We believe that the key to achieving the requirements of this race is working towards a comprehensive governance consensus for blockchain protocols with balanced levels of centralization and decentralization. What this kind of builds on is the idea that new technology has to meet old technology somewhere in the middle. And so the centralization and stuff that we've seen before, and the new decentralized model, at some point they're going to have to connect so that people can bridge over nicely. I don't know which way my hands are going. So that people can bridge from the old to the new. And yeah, so there's going to have to be some trade-off between centralized and decentralized stuff. And so we're currently seeing this in the case of like Coinbase, which just IPO'd. That is a good example of CeFi, whereas something like Uniswap, which is like only a small amount of code for what it does and how much transactions it processes, that's completely DeFi, right? So no one runs that, and it's completely decentralized. Yeah, so all this is saying is there's going to have to be, at some point, some governance is going to have to agree on what happens. Even at the governance consensus stage, where blockchain awareness reaches new heights, it will not be a surprise that there would still be a skeptical feeling towards blockchain. So they just then pull this example, which I quite liked. So when Amazon and Alibaba first started the e-commerce business idea, just adjust my camera a bit. So when Alibaba and Amazon first started the e-commerce business idea and campaign 20 years ago, nobody was confident or believed that e-commerce was going to disrupt. Yet both Amazon and Alibaba succeeded in their endeavors by focusing on two major factors. One, constantly educating the entire world. Now, this is what we're seeing at the moment. There's a big push with, well, in my own personal experience, initiatives like Grant for the Web. How do we educate people in their case, in Interledger? And, you know, it's this education of blockchain. I think the trading aspects of blockchain is going to bring people who are interested in that sort of stuff into the ecosystem, and hopefully it will spread out from there. But we need a lot more educational resources. And yeah, they're really pointing to this as being a key bit. And then second, they have been focused on building up a powerful and reliable infrastructure and all necessary accessibility and ease of use service tools, such as a one-stop shop service for e-commerce site, payment tool, logistics service, digital marketing campaigns, arbitration, and shared customer services to enable people to take advantage of their platform without any e-commerce technology or knowledge. I mean, this is the holy grail of blockchain when you're using the blockchain as a consumer and you don't even realize it's there, but you're just having a great time using it because there's zero fees. You can vote on your best stuff and you're rewarded for what you're doing. Yeah, I mean, this is really where we end up when it's all kind of played out. So that was the vision of VeChain. Hopefully from that, we've kind of got an understanding of what they're all about a bit better. I certainly have. And yeah, we now move on to the VeChainThor blockchain. It's quite a mouthful, that. So VeChainThor is a public blockchain that is designed for mass adoption of blockchain technology by business users of all sizes. It is intended to serve as a foundation for a sustainable and scalable business blockchain ecosystem. From a technical point of view, the VeChainThor blockchain is built upon existing proven blockchain innovations and novel technologies that are created for achieving mass adoption. These technologies include, and I've highlighted the key ones that we're going to cover here, proof of authority, protocols of transaction fee delegation, built-in smart contracts, as well as meta transaction features, on-chain governance mechanism, on-chain governance mechanisms, as well as tools for developers. Just for this next section, in section 2, we're going to cover proof of authority because it is quite a unique consensus algorithm. We're then going to look at the economics and how the built-in contracts work. So in terms of proof of authority, and this is where we're now just I'm reading this for the first time as you are. So the proof of authority consensus is a consensus algorithm that demands nodes to be authorized in order to participate. So as far as I understand, and this is where please correct me in the comments if I get this wrong, VeChain is more centralized than what we would usually expect. They have the ability to give the go ahead to various nodes that want to be authoritative in the system, and if they don't meet certain requirements, then they can't be an authority node. Now, this is important for business because you don't want anyone signing off that the data is good. And so that's why they've done it in this way. Unlike proof of stake or something which kind of relies on the power of the crowd, and proof of work, which kind of relies on mining pools to decentralize it. This is much more centralized, but is kind of much more suited to business applications. There's always trade-off when you're choosing consensus algorithms, and we can argue all day about which one's best, but they've chosen proof of authority, which I think is a good fit for the use case. And that plays into the business consensus vision in their first part. So once authorized, nodes are given equal chances to publish new blocks and gain rewards. As a result, there is no need for nodes to spend vast amounts of resources to compete with each other, like in proof of work. In addition, richer nodes do not have more advantage than other nodes in the system. So that's the kind of trade-off with proof of stake. So proof of authority is also efficient in terms of network bandwidth. It takes little time to decide block producers and thus allows more time for transmitting data. Therefore, we get a high TPS, transaction per second, which is good, again, for businesses which want stuff to settle quickly. And then it goes on to do a bit more about how stuff is active and inactive. And I'll link to the more technical paper there. Proof of authority 2.0. Basically, they just proposed 2 new mechanisms into the existing proof of authority protocol. The new POA will deliver absolute finality or safety guarantee on blocks or transactions, significant reduction in platform's risk of being temporarily disrupted, which will result in better stability, and faster converging probabilistic finality, which will result in faster transactions. Again, I think they will outline all that in the paper if you want to take more of a look into it. The two main things that they will introduce, the mechanisms to input these to create these outcomes, will be committee endorsing mechanism, which changes the way a block is created. More specifically, besides the selected block producer, it demands other nodes to participate in the process. So that will force multiple people to take part in it. I think that's kind of that. And block finality mechanism. The block finality mechanism grants qualified blocks absolute safety guarantee. Once a block acquires its finality, the consensus will assure that it cannot be modified, replaced, removed, or removed from the public ledger. So this is the immutability of blockchains coming into play. In summary, the next generation proof of authority will introduce something that significantly lowers the possibility of a node manipulating his right to produce a block, and block finality, which grants absolute safety to blocks that qualify certain criteria, which kind of achieves their higher security and better efficiency, which again line up to the enterprise use case much better. I'm not going to go through the implementation, and I'm not going to cover meta transaction features because it goes kind of too technical to what I want to do, nor am I going to do delegation. Again, you can read all this in the paper yourself, and this on-chain governance is all pure technical stuff. So built-in smart contracts, just a short bit on this. There are 7 built-in smart contracts deployed on the VeChainThor blockchain. Their source code can be found here. They are built-in contracts not only because they are shipped together with the Thor source code, but because many of their methods implemented natively in Go rather than Solidity for the sake of efficiency. These give an out-of-box toolkit to developers just to use simple contracts, and that's helpful for enterprise customers who won't necessarily have the expertise in developing blockchain smart contracts. Again, really nice that they've added that in there. I'm not going to cover connects, JS, and sync. I think that brings us to the end of section 2. I'm not going to cover governance. It's good to know, but it doesn't really affect us as investors in the thing. This is much more for the businesses out there that want to use it. they should understand that and how kind of nodes and stuff, you know, how they kind of get the authority and stuff like that. So I'm going to leave that for now. So section 4, economic model. Now this is where we need to pay attention, because this will describe how the VeChain token price is going to be affected by different things that happen in VeChainThor ecosystem. Financial characteristics are inherent in every blockchain, therefore a proper economic model is needed. They discovered that the largest obstacle to adoption of massive applications on blockchain is when the cost of using the blockchain is directly linked to the token value. So no business owner would run applications or a business on blockchain or anywhere unpredictable and unstable costs. So what they're basically saying here is if they let it be a speculative token, there's no way any business owner in their right mind is going to use that, because it just doesn't make sense to, you know, always be guessing what's coming in, what's going out, that sort of thing. So this section describes the VeChainThor blockchain economic model that governs the VTHO token, VTHO, generation from the VeChain tokens. So this is the first time that they've mentioned it, but they do in fact have 2 tokens. It's a two token economic model. The long and the short of it is VTHO token is generated via holding VeChain tokens with velocity V, which is established to allow any user with VET to make transactions at no extra cost if the user holds the tokens for long enough. The demand for VTHO comes from smart contract execution and payment transactions. Now that's a really important bit for me, because I'm quite focused on utility in the network, and you know, getting blockchain into enterprise is all about people using it and doing it. So the demand for VTHO comes from smart contract execution, i.e. people using it, and payment transactions, i.e. people using it. So to stabilize the transaction costs in fiat and maintain the equilibrium of demand and supply of VTHO, the foundation, so the VeChain Foundation, which is covered in the governance section, closely monitors the market and estimates the demand for VTHO based on the activities of applications running on the VeChainThor blockchain and token transmissions. And when needed, the foundation would step in basically to change that if they don't think it's right. 4.2, the design philosophy. The principle of designing the model is to prevent transactions fees from being directly exposed to the volatility of the price of VET, making the VeChainThor blockchain more suitable for conducting business and financial activities. If we take a look at this in more detail, we have the business activities, the VET, the smart money, and financial activities happening at the VET level, and then anything that happens on the network at the VeChainThor level, so the VTHO level, which is kind of like the energy and the smart money's up here. So this is all like transactional stuff where, you know, you're sending a payment or you're executing smart contracts. So it's good to see the separation in that, because you don't want financial activities getting in the way of executing the code and stuff like that. So I think this is a really key bit of the VeChain and the VeChainThor blockchain. So in our model, we designed a 2-token system to facilitate activities at both levels, namely VET and VTHO. The function of VET is to serve as a value transfer medium, or in other words, smart money, to enable rapid value circulation within the ecosystem. On the other hand, VTHO represents the underlying cost of using the VeChainThor blockchain and will be consumed, or in other words, burned, after certain blockchain operations are performed. So basically, they're going to, for every smart contract that gets executed or something, they're going to burn those VTHO things. It's going to be like an energy cost to the system. Since VET represents the right to use the VeChainThor blockchain, the model is designed in such a way that VTHO is automatically generated by holding VETs. So really important here, any business that wants to take part in the system has to own VET, the token that is the VeChain thing. Holding that, they get the energy automatically. So by holding it, it's sort of like, it's not really like staking because it doesn't have a kind of say in the system or anything like that, but you automatically gain energy, gain the other token if you hold the first token. So in other words, whoever holds VET gets VTHO and are able to use the VeChainThor blockchain for free, as long as the operations performed consume less than the VTHO generated. So what they're saying is VET, if you're just constantly producing VTHO, you can use that basically free of charge. just by holding VET. VTHO can be transferred and traded to allow users to acquire extra VTHO for performing a larger scale operation, such as running a blockchain application. So what I imagine this will do is create kind of like a secondary market, a bit like we see when we do carbon credits. So a business will be gifted a carbon credit, they don't use it all up, and they can sell it on to other businesses that are much less green, and overall, you know, it balances out. And I imagine the same will happen here. There'll be a market for extra VTHO that people aren't using, and someone who needs more to run like a more intensive application can buy that off them. I haven't seen anything about that. That's just conjecture on my part, but that's what I imagine will happen. Model settings, I'm not going to go into too much, but it basically tells you everything you need to know about the model. And it's relatively straightforward, but, you know, I don't want to cover it now because I'll just get into a mess without really sitting down and thinking about it. 4.4, balance the demand and supply of the VTHO. So depending on the market participation of VTHO market and demand and supply of VTHO, the foundation would adjust the minimum price for VTHO per gas to achieve its goal. So basically the foundation here are going to step in if they think that the costs are too high or something else. The supply of VTHO is based on current velocity. When the supply-demand hold trading patterns are not set, there will be fluctuation and an equilibrium-seeking process by the market players, such as enterprise users, developers, and VET holders. The VTHO market might be in the premature status for a period of time before purchasing VTHO from the open market and using it for running applications becomes normal for most enterprises. The VTHO price should not only be benchmarked with other blockchain platforms, but also the value added to business owners via the applications running on. So what this is saying is basically we need to maintain kind of a reasonable level of cost to each thing. If people are holding VET, they get a say in it. If traders are trading it on an open market, they get a say in it. If people are buying it, like we kind of described earlier, from other enterprises that aren't using it, they get a say in it, and they just want to make sure everyone's happy with that service. And kind of rounding off this section, all it's saying is, and if that doesn't happen, the foundation is going to set in and sort it out. So we're moving on to section 5. Section 5 covers use cases, which we covered kind of in the website video. So if you want kind of examples of use cases, I did already talk through a few of these. If you want to read these, be my guest. They are really good, and there's like an explanation of the different stuff, but I felt I covered that in the website. And I think that's it, because section 6 is just about how they're going to support the ecosystem. And if you're still here, well done for sticking to the end, because I know it's quite heavy reading these white papers. But that does conclude what VeChain is all about, our more technical analysis of the ecosystem. Yeah, so I see this is running on quite long now, so I'll leave it there for today. Hopefully that gives you a much better idea of what VeChain is all about. Certainly for me it does. And yeah, like I said in the beginning, with this, plus the website, plus a bit of extra research that I'm going to do over the next couple of days, I'm going to put this all together in a nice business model analysis, so we can really start to understand what's driving this token price and where it could go from here. And that will come out in the next couple of days. Yeah, follow me on Twitter if you want breaking news updates and stuff like that. It's at Greg Hannam. If you could please subscribe, like, and hit the bell icon for these videos. You'll be the first to know. And yeah, just let me know how I'm doing in the comments and stuff like that, or on Twitter. And any mistakes I made, please give me a shout. Like I say, this is just my understanding of the blockchain, and so I'm always open to improvements. And yeah, that really covers it off. So like I said, I'll see you in the next one for a fundamental, more kind of overviewy, holistic view of the whole system. Yeah, so that's really it. And I'll see you in the next one for a fundamental analysis deep dive on the VeChain token price, and maybe also the VTHO token price. And yeah, should be a good one. So stay tuned.